Morocco shocked the world at the 2022 World Cup when they became the first African country to make the semifinals of the tournament, an achievement that will be remembered forever, thanks to the heroes on the pitch who made that happen. But with the next World Cup looming, where are those Moroccan players today that contributed to their unprecedented success at the previous World Cup? Have they progressed in their careers? Are they still being called up to the Moroccan national team? Do they even play football anymore? Etc. Well, I'm here to answer those questions. So let's take a look at where the players in Morocco's 2022 World Cup squad are at today. And the first player we're going to talk about is the starting goalkeeper for Morocco, Bono, who wore the #1 kit, hence why we're talking about him first. And Bono at the 2022 World Cup was absolutely phenomenal. He played every game of the tournament for Morocco at the World Cup, besides the 2-0 win over Belgium, and that's because he felt his vision was getting a little hazy after some pain-killing injections. Besides that, he kept a clean sheet in 3 out of the 5 games he was between the sticks for, and was a hero for the 2 knockout games Morocco got wins in, where he was instrumental in Morocco's penalty shootout victory against Spain in the round of 16, where he saved 2 penalties to help his side go through, and then his ridiculous saves against Portugal in the quarterfinal to knock out Cristiano Ronaldo's side helped Morocco make an unprecedented World Cup semi-final run, helping his nation become the first African and Arab nation to accomplish such a feat. Additionally, due to Bono's strong performances at the World Cup, he was recognized by the International Federation of Football History and Statistics, also known as IFFHS, as they ranked him 3rd best goalkeeper in the world in 2022, becoming the first African goalkeeper to make it into these top 3 rankings. So, after stunning fans and pundits worldwide back in 2022, where is Bono now? Well, at the time of the World Cup, he was Sevilla's starting goalkeeper, and later on the 22-23 season, he would help the Spanish side win the Europa League for the quadrillion time, with Sevilla beating Roma in the final on penalties 4-1 to make that happen, with Bono saving the Roma captain Mancini's penalty and also Ibanez's penalty to make sure Sevilla won. Those were some incredible saves in the penalty shootout too. Anyways, with Bono helping Sevilla win another Europa League, their 4th in recent history, and his own 2nd one personally, Saudi Arabian clubs wanted to splash the cash that 2023 summer at some great players out in Europe, and Bono was one of those players getting that attention. So much so that arguably Saudi Arabia's biggest club, Al Hilal, were willing to splash 21 million euros for the Moroccan goalkeeper, with a salary of 10 million euros per season, with him earning roughly around 192,000 euros per week, a huge jump in his salary from Sevilla, which is why Bono accepted the deal and has been a part of Al Hilal ever since, where he's helped them win 2 Saudi Super Cups and 1 Saudi Arabian League title back in the 23-24 season. However, even with Bono leaving Europe to play in Saudi Arabia, he hasn't lost his goalkeeping quality, and we saw that recently at the FIFA Club World Cup held in the US in the summer of 2025, where Bono's incredible saves in the round of 16 against Manchester City helped his side Al Hilal pull off a ginormous upset, knocking City out after winning 4-3. And like I said, Bono played a huge part in that with his amazing saves. So regarding Bono, he's still in top shape after a few years from the 2022 World Cup, and he'll definitely be Morocco's starting goalkeeper at the 2025 AFCON they're hosting, and also the 2026 World Cup. However, with him being 34 years old and his Al Hilal contract expiring at the end of the World Cup, who knows as of right now what his next move will be next year. Now moving on to the next Moroccan player at the 2022 World Cup, let's talk about the superstar right back who wore and still wears the #2 for his nation, Achraf Hakimi, arguably the greatest right back in the world right now. Now at the 2022 World Cup, Hakimi was one of Morocco's key and best players. He started every single game for Morocco at the tournament, played every single minute in the knockout stages, and only got substituted out for a total of 37 minutes, meaning he played 623 minutes from an available 660. He also got a crucial assist in Morocco's last group stage game against Canada, where they would go on and win that match 2-1 to top their pretty difficult group. Additionally, he was the one who had that final penalty kick against the country he was born and raised in, Spain, in the round of 16, where he would Panenka the goalkeeper in an intense situation and then hit them with the iconic penguin waddle celebration as Morocco beat Spain in that penalty shootout. And thanks to Hakimi's iconic and great play at the 2022 World Cup, he received recognition for that, being named to the FIFA FIFPro Men's World 11 for that year, and also the IFFHS Men's World Team of the Year as well. Since then, on the pitch, things have only gotten better for Hakimi. He was named the Moroccan Player of the Year for the 2nd time in that year of 2022. He won the French Cup twice with PSG, the club he was with at the 2022 World Cup by the way. He won the French Super Cup 3 times, won the league with PSG 4 times, and even played a huge part in this past 24-25 season, where he got a total of 11 goals and 16 assists in 55 games as a fullback, and helped PSG win their first ever Champions League, scoring a crucial goal in the quarterfinal tie against Aston Villa in the 2nd leg, scoring another crucial goal in the 2nd leg, this time in the semifinals against Arsenal, where PSG will win 2-1, and then scored the first goal for PSG in the Champions League final, where he chose not to celebrate against his old side Inter Milan, where PSG ended up winning 5-0 to lift their first ever Champions League, like I said. Additionally, he definitely has, in the last season at least, cemented himself as the best right back in the world, and with him being in the prime age of 26/27 years old still, he's definitely going to be playing a huge role for Morocco at the 2025 AFCON and the 2026 World Cup, maybe even the 2030 World Cup as well after that, where Morocco are the co-hosts. He'd only be like 31 years old by then. Speaking about Morocco, it's only gotten better for Hakimi as well, with him being given the honor of captaining the national team since 2024, where he captained Morocco at the 2024 Olympics, helping his country to a 3rd place finish, contributing heavily, like assisting in a 3-0 win against Iraq in the group stages, scoring a goal against my USA in the quarterfinals to help them win 4-1, and even scoring a goal in the 3rd place playoff against Egypt in a 6-0 win. Since then, with the senior team, he's been the Morocco national team captain, which seems deserved since he's probably the face of the national team at this point. However, with everything going right on the pitch, off the pitch is when it becomes a little tricky to say the least. And that's because around April 2023, Hakimi's ex-wife Hiba Abouk filed a divorce against Hakimi and apparently wanted half his wealth according to Fox Sports. However, she had to walk away from the divorce court with nothing after learning Hakimi's fortune was in his mother's name, because apparently Hakimi has no properties or money under his name, and everything is under his mom's name instead. Fox also said that the court officials determined this after Abouk filed for the divorce, telling her that even his PSG salary was registered under his mother. This was the story that went mega viral on the internet, but then there were also reports of other news outlets saying that this divorce story from Hakimi is fake. So to be honest, to this day, I'm not quite sure which one I believe. What we all know for sure though is that Hakimi and his ex-wife now were definitely divorced, ending their 3-year marriage. However, something else came out around March 2023, so roughly at around the same time, and that was with the 23-year-old woman coming out forward and accusing him of rape, and a preliminary investigation was opened. Then recently, a lot more news surrounding this investigation came out, with Hakimi as of August 1st, 2025, is facing up to 15 years in prison for rape charges. And although he has always maintained his innocence and argued he was being accused for financial gain, the prosecutor's office has still requested the indictment of the player before the criminal court. However, there are reports coming out saying that the potential victim messaged her friend saying, "I'm gonna fuck Hakimi," and later called him her type. And then the friend called her a dirty slut. And then when the case escalated, some of those messages might have been deleted. So I don't know what's gonna happen regarding Hakimi with this case. It could be proven false, but it could also be proven true. But at the time of me recording this one, the jury is still out for this one. But regardless, Hakimi has become a central piece for the Moroccan national team. And with his amazing performances and arguably being the best right back in the world right now with PSG, I don't really see that changing anytime soon, unless Trent goes off for Real Madrid this upcoming season, but whatever. Let's now move on to the next player on this list, the man who wore the number 3 for Morocco at the World Cup, the right back who played left back at the tournament because Hakimi exists. It's Noussair Mazraoui. Now Mazraoui was another key piece for Morocco's semi-final run at the World Cup, playing in an unnatural position for the side and even doing a pretty good part in that. With him starting in 5 out of the 7 games Morocco participated at the tournament, and even after being subbed out due to injury in the opening game against Croatia, he came back and played a crucial role in Morocco going far at the tournament. He had those great displays too after playing through injuries, and even though in the match against Portugal he couldn't play due to those injury issues, he still played pretty well in the other games despite dealing with that. So how is Mazraoui doing now since the World Cup? Well, that World Cup took place in Mazraoui's first ever season with Bayern Munich after he left Ajax a couple months before the tournament kicked off, and due to the injury issues he was battling through for Morocco, he missed out on the next couple of months for Bayern Munich, but overall still played a decent amount, playing 26 games and having 1 goal and 4 assists in his first full season with Bayern. The next season with Bayern Munich was more or less the same. He had some injury issues, played at the 2024 AFCON where Morocco got upset by South Africa after the Hakimi missed penalty, and only got to dress 29 times for Bayern that season and had 4 assists, the same amount as the season prior. But in an unexpected change of events, this was Mazraoui's last ever season for Bayern Munich, and that's because he was sold to Manchester United for 15 million euros plus a potential 5 million in add-ons, as he wanted to reunite with Erik ten Hag, who was his old Ajax manager. But why did Mazraoui dip Bayern Munich when he was only there for a couple of seasons? Well, there were rumors that Bayern Munich kicked him out of the club due to his pro-Palestinian comments that he made on social media that got him in some trouble. But Bayern officially and ultimately decided not to sanction it, and even Mazraoui came out and said that he felt like he could feel better and more comfortable somewhere else, which is why he chose to switch to Manchester United. Also, it seemed like Bayern had other right backs like Bowie, Stanisic, and Kimmich, so they didn't really see a need in keeping Mazraoui, which is fair enough. And now with Manchester United, Man United have been awful. They literally finished 15th place. That's disgraceful. But Mazraoui for this team has definitely become one of the bright spots, becoming somewhat of a leader for this team, and even playing everywhere for them, like right back, left back, anywhere in the midfield, center back, etc. He's doing everything for United, showcasing his tremendous ability and useful versatility. Overall, Mazraoui is still a very good player, and he's going to be a key piece for Morocco in the upcoming AFCON and World Cup, as he's still relatively young and has a few good years ahead of him still. Moving on to the player who repped the number 4 kit for Morocco at the World Cup, we got Sofiane Amrabat, the tank in the midfield for the national team at the tournament. I got tired watching Amrabat in Qatar, bro. I swear to God, this dude would not stop running. Like, look at this. He played every single available minute for Morocco at the World Cup. Didn't get substituted or benched even once, even playing with pain, with him even playing through injuries, and even had injections from a physio at 3 a.m. to ensure that he was fit for the knockout games, like the Spain World Cup round 16 upset. This dude was an absolute animal, and although he was playing for a respectable club in Fiorentina at the time, it was only natural that after performances like this, he was going to be highly regarded amongst top clubs in Europe, and eventually one of them would take a chance on him, and that was Manchester United, who signed him in the summer of 2023 on a season-long loan deal from Fiorentina for 10 million euros, and the deal also included an option for Manchester United to make the move permanent for an additional 20 million euros plus 5 million in add-ons. However, the 23-24 season for Amrabat at Man United was a mixed bag. He was signed to be a defensive midfielder for the club, but injuries and tactical setups sometimes had him playing left back and other positions at times, making him just look lost on the pitch. And although he had some good moments and showcased moments of good football, his impact was pretty limited, and this led Man United not to secure a permanent move for him in the following 2024 summer. So instead, Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce came knocking and secured Amrabat's signature for a total of 18 million euros. And the Turkish Giants is where Amrabat is still playing at today, with him becoming a key player for the Turkish side, playing 43 43 games for them last season. And regarding Morocco, he's still a key piece for that side, just like he was at the World Cup back in 2022, with him playing every single minute in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers in late 2024, played 152 minutes out of the 180 in the June 2025 international window, and is also still playing a crucial role for them in the World Cup qualifiers, playing a majority of the minutes. So at least for the foreseeable future, Sofiane Amrabat will be a huge piece for Morocco at the 2025 AFCON they're hosting and at the 2026 World Cup in North America, as long as he continues to play well for Fenerbahce as he's already doing. Let's now move on to the center back who wore the number 5 kit for Morocco at the 2022 World Cup. It's Nayef Aguer. But before that, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. And also make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon. So if you want to, feel free to follow me on my socials, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Now at the World Cup, Aguer was an irreplaceable stud for the first half of it. He played every single minute in the group stages, and even played most of the round 16 tie against Spain, but at the 84th minute, he had to get subbed out due to an apparent thigh injury, and then missed the quarterfinal tie against Portugal due to that injury he sustained against Spain. However, in the semifinal against France, he was initially named in the starting lineup, but he was withdrawn shortly before the match due to an illness, hence why he didn't play at the later stages of the tournament. He was definitely a huge loss against France with all the attacking talent those guys have. But anyways, at the time of the World Cup, Aguer was playing for West Ham and just signed to them that previous summer from Rennes for 35 million euros. But in his previous 2 seasons at the club, he was a mixed bag. He had a strong second half to the 22-23 season, but the first half he didn't participate whatsoever due to an ankle injury, and then in the 23-24 season, he would have a strong first 3 months of the campaign, but then the second half of the season would also be hampered by AFCON and injuries. That's when in the summer of 2024, the club and him decided that it would be best if he got loaned out, and that's when he joined Real Sociedad in Spain for a season-long loan, where he would impress and succeed at Sociedad, becoming a key player for the Spanish side, even though they had an underwhelming campaign, and statistically he was their second best performing player overall. However, with West Ham wanting a transfer fee, which Real Sociedad were unable to give for whatever reason, he won't return for them for the following 25-26 campaign, and it's still unclear whether Aguer will leave to another team in the season right before the World Cup, or whether he will stay at West Ham. Regardless, Aguer is a top center back in Africa, and it's clear to see that he has some good quality. And regarding his time with Morocco, although he wasn't called up to the latest international window in June due to injury, he's played an important role for Morocco in the AFCON and World Cup qualifiers, starting every game and playing almost every minute, including scoring a goal against Tanzania in March 2025. So it seems like Aguer will still have a role to play for his national team at the upcoming AFCON and at the World Cup in the summer of 2026. Let's now move on to the next player on this list. The number 6 who actually captained Morocco at the World Cup is Romain Saiss. Now Saiss had a pretty flawless group stage in round 16 when it came to availability, with him starting and captaining this Morocco side for the 4 games. However, when it came to the quarterfinal tie against Portugal, he had to get subbed out after 57 minutes due to a hamstring injury he suffered in the match, and he was forced off. Despite this, Morocco were able to beat Portugal, and he was able to recover before the game against France in the semifinals, the country that Saiss was actually born and raised in. However, Saiss didn't recover that properly, and he had to be subbed out within 21 minutes due to that very same injury. Regardless of the injury issues towards the end of the World Cup campaign for Morocco, Romain Saiss was a crucial piece for this national team in a run to the semifinals, and his leadership as the captain will never be forgotten for his teammates and all the fans worldwide who witnessed it. Now regarding Romain Saiss's journey club-wise, he was the captain and a player of Wolverhampton Wanderers for around 6 years, but right before the World Cup in the summer of 2022, he moved to the Turkish Giants Besiktas on a free transfer. However, despite being a pretty consistent star for the Turkish club, he decided to leave in the following summer of 2023 after he had tactical disagreements and a lack of trust in the new coach, and that's where he would join the Qatari Giants Al-Sadd for 2.5 million euros. But then in a plot twist, Al-Sadd were unable to register him due to the club exceeding their foreign player quota, and instead he went out on a loan move to Al-Shabaab in the Saudi Arabia League before coming back to Al-Sadd in the summer of 2024, where he still is today. And with Al-Sadd, he hasn't really done too much to be honest, because he keeps getting relatively serious injuries, and this has only led him to playing 11 games in the past season. And at the age of 35, who knows how well he's going to recover from these serious injuries. Now regarding the Moroccan national team for Romain Saiss, he has been called up to the national team in over a year, with his last appearance for the team being against Zambia and Morocco's 2-1 win in World Cup qualifiers. Despite this, Romain Saiss has confirmed earlier in 2025 that he has not retired from the national team, and he never even thought about that before. So the chances of him still being called up are still existent, if that's even a word. However, I would probably say it's unlikely, just because he is coming off an injury-ridiculed season playing a guitar, and he's 35 years old. So for the first time in this video, but not the last, I wouldn't expect Saiss to return to Morocco for the 2025 AFCON or the 2026 World Cup. There's gonna be more players that came on this list, trust me. It just so happens that Romain Saiss is the first player we're talking about that doesn't have a future on the national team anymore in my opinion. Now moving on from that, let's go over the number 7 from Morocco who had an amazing 2022 World Cup performance that shocked everybody. It's Hakim Ziyech. Now Ziyech was balling out like I alluded to. He played almost every single minute at the tournament, clocking in 638 minutes out of an available 660, and he even captained the side in their 3rd place playoff game against Croatia, in which they barely lost 2-1. Additionally, in the game against Belgium, he was extremely influential on the pitch, and his assist to Zakaria Abouklal, who we'll get to, was crucial in order to help Morocco get a 2-0 win over the Belgians. And then his banger from way downtown against Canada helped Morocco win 2-1 and played a huge reason in how they were able to top the group. He also converted his penalty against Spain in the round 16, which was very important in them pulling off the upset in this round. So yeah, Hakim Ziyech was balling out at the 2022 World Cup for his nation, and it's crazy that he almost didn't even get called up. That's right, you heard me correctly. You see, for a while leading up to the tournament, Hakim Ziyech announced that as long as Vahid Halilhodzic was the manager of the Moroccan national team, he would not represent the country on the pitch. That's right, he and the gaffer at the time had a ton of beef. However, 3 months before the World Cup, Halilhodzic was sacked and replaced by Walid Regragui, who convinced Ziyech to come back to the national team, but he would ball out for Morocco. Anyways, now, what happened with Ziyech's career? So at the time of the World Cup, Ziyech was playing for Chelsea, although he was not an important player for that side. He was more of a role player, respectfully. And despite playing 107 games for the Blues, scoring 14 goals and getting 13 assists, winning a Champions League, a UEFA Super Cup, and a FIFA Club World Cup, at least in the old format with Chelsea during his time there, his overall time with the Blues was a mixed bag, with some positive moments but not too many. And he decided that it was time to leave Chelsea in the summer of 2023, and his first initial move seemed to be Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. However, despite early reports of him failing a medical with some issues regarding his hip and his knee, the deal is set to ultimately collapse due to the fact that they couldn't finalize the financial aspects of his contract. And because of that, he decided to join Galatasaray instead on a loan deal in Turkey, before being allowed to join them on a free in the summer of 2024. But in 1.5 seasons with the club, he only managed to play 34 games and bag 8 goals and 5 assists, even having some really bad misses mixed in as well. And eventually, after having limited playing time and having a lot of dissatisfaction towards the coach Okan Buruk, he publicly came out and said that Galatasaray is over for him and he wants to leave in January 2025 since he does not want to play for the club anymore. And he even went in at the coach, saying he's never seen a coach that low level and regrets joining Galatasaray and that he wants to be left alone. Ziyech went in on Galatasaray and their coach at the time, not gonna lie. Bro held nothing back when he was saying that. Anyways, Ziyech got his way and forced his way out of the club and ended up joining Al Duhail on a free transfer in January 2025. But in the summer of 2025, Ziyech and Al Duhail mutually agreed to go separate ways as the club began to restructure its foreign player roster. And at the time of recording this video, Ziyech has not found a new club yet. There are reports that he's offering himself to Serie A clubs, and apparently Marseille was interested at some point in time, but as of right now, nothing concrete is coming out regarding Ziyech. And the truth is, since his star-studded World Cup 2022 performance, it's been downhill for Hakim Ziyech's career. Regarding his time with Morocco, he has played in the AFCON qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers, friendlies, etc. But he hasn't played for Morocco at all in the year 2025. And with the fact that he doesn't have a club yet, who knows whether he'll be called in for the AFCON or the World Cup in the summer of 2026. Truth is, even if he was called in, which seems unlikely-ish now, he is 32 years old and way past his prime, so he wouldn't play a crucial role regardless. Plus, Morocco got some new talents on the wing now that can do the job. So sadly for Ziyech, it seems like his time in Morocco is coming to an end. But there is always a chance that he gets called in again. Let's now move on to the next player from Morocco, the man who wore the number 8 at the World Cup for them. It's Azzedine Ounahi, and he came out of nowhere and excelled at his role in Qatar. At the World Cup, he started almost every game, only coming off from the bench in the third place playoff match against Croatia. But for the rest of the matches, he played an instrumental role in the midfield and was crucial to how this Morocco team wanted to operate. Ounahi impressed everybody with his technical skills, dribbling ability, completing 10 out of 12 attempted dribbles, the highest success rate among players who attempted at least 8 dribbles at the tournament, and passing rate, with him completing the third most passes for Morocco with 216. And after the tournament concluded, he was definitely recognized as one of the tournament's breakout stars, with ESPN even noting that he was arguably the biggest find quote-unquote at the World Cup. So as you can see, the hype surrounding Ounahi around the World Cup time was at an all-time high. So much so that Angers, the club that Ounahi was at, knew that they couldn't hold on to him much longer. And they were right, because in January 2023, just a couple weeks after the World Cup ended, he joined Marseille on an €8 million move, which was €7 million cheaper than his market value at the time. And it seemed like Marseille got themselves an absolute steal of a player. However, Ounahi's time at Marseille was largely unsuccessful, as he struggled to replicate his World Cup form with his new team and failed to establish himself as a regular starter in the first team of Marseille. So much so that after 1.5 seasons and after a total of 44 games, 3 goals and just 1 assist, he was loaned out to the Greek club Panathinaikos for the past 24-25 season. Now with Panathinaikos, Ounahi became a key player for the Greek club, and he did so well that he was recognized by the fans as they named him the player of the season. But how much does that really mean? Because the Greek league isn't one of the best. So of course Ounahi was expected to be one of the better players in the league, and he was. However, when it came time to make this move permanent in the summer of 2025, Panathinaikos was reluctant to pounce on that €11.5 million buy option, with them wanting a loan instead. However, Marseille wanted a permanent sale, and even though there were links to Spartak Moscow, Girona as recent, and other clubs, etc., a move has not been resolved for Ounahi yet at the time of recording this. If you told me 3 years ago during the World Cup that Ounahi would have a loan spell at the Greek club after the tournament, I would have laughed at your face, and it's safe to say it hasn't gone well for Ounahi since the tournament concluded. But he's still 25, so he's got plenty of time to get his career back on track. Regarding Morocco though, he's still getting called up to the national team, playing in the World Cup qualifiers, AFCON qualifiers, and the latest international friendlies. So I still would expect him to play a part in the 2025 AFCON and even the 2026 World Cup. It's just his club situation that needs to be resolved. His situation with the Moroccan national team is fine. But now it's time to talk about another striker who wore the number 9 at the World Cup. It's Abdelrazak Hamdallah. Now I know what some of the viewers might be saying right now. Who the hell is Abdelrazak Hamdallah? And to be fair to y'all, I don't really blame you guys for saying that, because he's the first player on this list that had a very minimal impact at the 2022 World Cup for Morocco, despite wearing the number 9 kit. He might have worn the iconic striker number, but the main striker at the tournament was En-Nesyri, who we'll get to later, not Abderrazak Hamdallah. So with that being said, at the World Cup, he only played 4 games, and came off the bench for all of them. He had 9 minutes against Croatia, 17 minutes against Belgium, 14 minutes against Canada, and 24 minutes in the semifinals against France in their 2-0 loss. That's it. Regarding his club form though, at the time he was playing for Al Ittihad, and he performed very well for that Saudi club, bagging 67 goals and getting 8 assists in 84 games. However, 2 years later, he was switched to Al Shabab, where he would get 24 goals and 4 assists in 30 games. Bro has a really good goal scoring output in the Saudi Pro League, not gonna lie. But then in the summer of 2025, he joined Al Hilal on a short-term loan deal right before the quarterfinal game against Fluminense at the Club World Cup, where he came on the pitch as a substitute wearing the number 10 jersey, which was left vacant from Neymar's departure. But now that loan spell has ended early, with the two clubs coming to an agreement to end this deal prematurely. So what the hell was the point of him joining Al Hilal? What the heck? There was genuinely no point in this. Now regarding his time in Morocco, yeah, let's come to an end, bro. He's 34 years old, and the last time he was called up was in the summer of 2023 against Cape Verde in a friendly. So yeah, he's not coming back from Morocco in the future. I'm confident about that. Let's now move on to the ace of the Moroccan national team at the 2022 World Cup, the main award of the number 10. It's Anas Zaroury. And fun fact, he literally only had 1 cap before the World Cup with Morocco, and that was literally in the pre-World Cup friendly against Georgia where they won 3-0. He was a recent recruit at the time to the Moroccan national team, and that's because he represented Belgium throughout his entire youth national team days, and he was set to be a key player for the country he was born and raised in for the future. You see, Amina Harit was set to be Morocco's 10 at the World Cup, but he got injured right before the tournament was ready to commence, and that's when regressed got on the phone, convinced Zaroury to switch and join the Morocco national team at the World Cup, and he did just that and switched sides. Belgium must have been livid when that happened, for real. Now regarding Zaroury's impact with the national team at the World Cup, yeah, it was non-existent. He could have disappeared from the national team camp in Qatar and nobody would have noticed or cared, respectfully. Anas Zaroury switched to Morocco to only play 1 game in the World Cup, and that was coming off the bench in the 3rd place playoff match against Croatia. That's kind of it regarding Zaroury. Moving on to his club career, at the time he was at Burnley, but after he scored 10 goals and got 9 assists in 49 games for the English club, he could not cut it out in the Premier League, so he got a loan back down to where he was initially performing, the Championship, and played for Hull City. After only getting 2 goals in 12 games for Hull, the move was not made permanent, and Burnley ended up selling Zaroury to RC Lens over in France for €5 million. But after just 1 season, where he would only get 2 goals and 3 assists in 28 games, a new coach came in and saw that his playing time reduced significantly, and this meant he was looking for a new move, which he recently got to the Greek club Panathinaikos. That's the club where Unai was at, and there's an option to buy for €3 million at the end of the season for the 24-year-old. So to go for someone who is set to be a key player to Belgium, to then switching to Morocco and winning the number 10 at the World Cup, to now playing in the Greek league less than a year out from the 2026 World Cup, Zaroury's career trajectory has been unexpectedly underwhelming. But with him still being young, there's still plenty of time for him to bounce back. However, with him not being called up to the Moroccan national team at all recently, and him only having a total of 4 games for his country, I wouldn't really expect him to be back with the national team anytime soon, especially not at this upcoming AFCON or at the 2026 World Cup. You never know, but I doubt it. Moving on from that, let's now go over to the number 11 for Morocco at the 2026 World Cup. We got Abdelhamid Sabiri. Now compared to Zaroury, Sabiri played way more for Morocco. He played most of the games to the tournament, even though all but 2 were off the bench, and he even got an assist against Belgium in their 2-0 win in the group stages, and also scored the first penalty in the shootout against Spain in the round of 16. However, when push came to shove, in some of the even more important matches like the quarterfinal clash against Portugal or the semifinal tie against France, Sabiri couldn't get off the bench, which just showcased his role that he was a bench player that couldn't be relied upon completely by the head coach, which is fine. Not every player in a World Cup squad is going to be relied on heavily. It just so happens that Sabiri was one of them. Regardless, compared to others on this list that are coming up, Sabiri definitely had a memorable World Cup for himself and the Moroccan fans at least, and he's etched himself into the 2022 underdog story folklore. Now regarding his club career, right before the World Cup in January this time, Sabiri joined Sampdoria in Serie A, where he gets 6 goals and 3 assists in 35 games in total. But after that, in January 2023, Sabiri would join Fiorentina for €2.5 million before being loaned back for the rest of the season, and then joining them permanently in the summer of 2023. However, he wasn't ready for Fiorentina then, I guess, and got loaned out to the Saudi club Al Fayha, where he would score 7 goals and get 7 assists in 23 games before returning to Fiorentina, before getting loaned back out to UAE's Ajman club, and after half a season, he would get another loan to Al Tawoun, and now as of the 2025 summer, he's back at Fiorentina for now. But according to his track record, I wouldn't be surprised if another loan move is on the cards. Bro's been at Fiorentina for almost 3 years and hasn't played 1 singular official game for them. That's crazy, man. Regarding Morocco, even though he should be in his prime right now at 28 years old, he hasn't been called up for Morocco in 2 years, and his last game was also against Cape Verde in the summer of 2023. And not gonna lie, the way his career has been moving, I really would not expect him to be called up for the upcoming tournaments for Morocco. They got better players now in his position, with all due respect. So yeah, if you ask me, Sabiri's time for Morocco has been over. But now it's time to talk about the backup goalkeeper for Morocco at the 2022 World Cup. The man who wore the number 12, it's Mounir Mohammedi. Now unlike most of the backup goalkeepers at the World Cup, Mohammedi actually started and played a game. If you remember, Bodo missed the game against Belgium, so Mounir Mohammedi stepped in and he actually kept a clean sheet in that 2-0 win. So well done to him. Other than that though, he did remain on the bench for Morocco. So yeah, that's kind of it. Regarding club club-wise now. He was at Al Wahda in Saudi Arabia, and now he's back in Morocco for RS Berkane at 36 years old. So now you must be thinking, Nabuto, we get it, he doesn't play for Morocco anymore, let's just move on. But actually, you'd be wrong. Dab. He might be old, but he still gets called up for the Moroccan national team even in the big 2025, and even has gotten minutes in some games. And with how it's going, I genuinely would not be surprised if he was with Morocco at the AFCON and then at the next World Cup, even if it's just as a backup goalkeeper. But now it's time to move on to the unlucky number 13 for Morocco, where we have the midfielder Ilyas Cher. Now you guys might not remember him, and that's okay, I don't blame you, because he had a minimal impact at the World Cup. I guess you could say Ilyas Cher was left on the chairs on the bench. You see what I did there? Okay, sorry, that was a bad joke. Anyways, he was left on the bench for every single game except the last game against Croatia and the third place playoff where he got to play 45 minutes. Other than that, Ilyas Cher didn't really participate at all. He was with QPR at the time of the World Cup, and he's still there, collecting 37 goals and 43 assists in 265 games. He's low-key on his way of becoming a co-hero of Queen's Park Rangers, if not a legend for the club for real. But regarding Morocco, his last game for the national team was back in June 2023 against Cape Verde. Why is that game always the last one for these players, bruh? Did they get some sort of send-off in that game or something? Regardless, he has not been called upon in over 2 years, and I doubt he will be for the 2 upcoming tournaments. Sorry. Now it's time to talk about the number 14 of Morocco's national team at the 2022 World Cup, my birthday day. It's Zakaria Abouklal. Now for Morocco at the tournament, Abouklal didn't actually end up getting a lot of minutes. He only participated in 4 out of the 7 games, and he came off the bench for all 4, playing 17 minutes against Belgium, 25 against Canada, 8 minutes against Portugal in the quarterfinals, and 23 minutes in the semifinals against France. However, even though he played only 73 minutes throughout the entire World Cup, he did have an important impact, especially the game against Belgium, where he came off the bench and scored to make it 2-0 and pull off the upset against the 3rd place medalist at the 2018 World Cup, Belgium. Besides that though, Zakaria Abouklal didn't do much at the World Cup, but he was always set to be a promising player for the future, with him seemingly looking like he'll be a gem for Toulouse, and it was assumed that he would be a star player for Morocco for years to come. But it actually hasn't gone like that. Although for Toulouse, he seemed like a pretty productive player on the pitch, getting a grand total of 25 goals and 9 assists in 83 games. However, his time would be hampered with some injuries, with some of them being relatively serious, and he also would be in the middle of some controversy too, with him getting into an altercation with a local official, being accused of making misogynistic remarks towards a Toulouse deputy mayor, leading to a temporary suspension, and then him refusing to wear the rainbow-themed decorations on his kit for a match, and this led him to being left out the squad, etc. So his time with Toulouse was an overall mixed bag. And now in Morocco, although he does get called sometimes, like he got one recently, he isn't playing as much as everybody thought he would initially, and sometimes he would be left out of the squad just because or due to injury. However, he just moved to FC Torino this past summer, so if he can turn around and perform, I can see him restoring his place in Morocco's squad. But there is also a realistic chance that he doesn't make the AFCON or World Cup squad too. Let's now move on to the number 15 on Morocco's 2022 World Cup squad, Salim Amala. Now Amala actually played a decent role at the World Cup for Morocco. I mean, he literally played in every single game of the tournament. Sure, he started off the bench for a couple of games, but for the most part, he was a starter somewhere in the midfield. He didn't wow anybody per se, but he did his job and role well for Morocco at the tournament. Now during that time period, Amala was playing for Standard Liège, where he would get a total of 31 goals and 11 assists in 97 games as a midfielder/attacking midfielder, which is pretty good. And this would earn him a move to Spain with Real Valladolid in January 2023. However, after half a season, he would be loaned out to Valencia for the 23-24 campaign, where he would get 0 goals and 1 assist in 22 games, and would return to play for Real Valladolid in the 24-25 season, where he would get 4 goals and 3 assists in 25 games for a side that finished last in La Liga and just got relegated to La Liga 2, where it seems like Amala will be playing in for this upcoming season since he has not left Valladolid at the time we recorded this video. And regarding Amala's time in Morocco, his last appearance for them was back in AFCON in January 2024, and hasn't represented Morocco in 1.5 years. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't really see that changing anytime soon, especially before 2026 if at all. Sorry. And now I think it's time to move on to a very interesting player on Morocco's World Cup squad, the number 16 Abdi Azalzouli. Now Abdi did not have that much of an impact on Morocco's 2022 World Cup squad if we're being honest. He only participated in 3 out of the 7 games, coming off the bench for all 3, with him playing 25 minutes against Croatia in Morocco's opening game, playing against Spain in the round 16, and then played 12 minutes in the semifinals against France. However, even though Abdi's impact for Morocco was minimal at the World Cup, he, unlike many other players on this list, is one of the only players that I feel like has progressed since the 2022 World Cup. At the time of the World Cup, he was loaned out from Barcelona to Osasuna. Yes, he didn't perform superb at Osasuna, only scoring 6 goals and getting 2 assists in 34 games during his loan stint, but these decent performances were noticed by another La Liga side in Real Betis, and Barcelona were glad to let Abdi go there for only 7.5 million euros in the summer of 2023. And yes, although his first season wasn't that great, this past 24-25 season, he had glowed up tremendously, with him bagging 9 goals and getting 5 assists in 49 games, including scoring the opening goal in the Conference League final against Chelsea, a game that Real Betis sadly lost. Additionally, for Morocco, he's been getting constantly called up to everything he can participate participate in. He's been getting called into the AFCON qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers, the international friendlies, and he was even part of Morocco's Olympic squad in 2024, where he impressed, scoring 2 goals and getting 3 assists in 6 games. And he even helped Morocco's under-23s win the Africa Under-23 Cup of Nations back in the summer of 2023, scoring 3 goals and getting 3 assists in 4 games, including an assist in the final against Egypt to help Morocco win it. So although Abdi isn't some world-class talent for Morocco, he's showing the world that he's improving himself basically every season, and he definitely has a role somewhere to play for the Moroccan senior team. And this trust in him is being paid off by regressed, who keeps calling him up despite the growth and talent in the Moroccan national team pool. So with the AFCON and World Cup 2026 coming around, I would be very surprised if Abdi Azazuli isn't a part of that, unless he falls off a cliff in the 25-26 season, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. But now I think it's time to talk about the number 17 for Morocco at the 2022 World Cup, and it's the left winger who has a ton of flair, Sofiane Boufal. He was a player who went viral for dancing with his mother after Morocco went through in the knockout stages at the World Cup, just in case for some reason y'all don't remember. Anyways, at the World Cup, Sofiane Boufal was definitely an integral part for this national team, with him starting every single match at the World Cup for Morocco. And although he never went an entire 90 minutes in a single game and didn't record a single goal contribution, if you watch the games, you would know that Boufal was a threat down the left-hand side for Morocco, and he's one of the key reasons why Morocco caused that much danger in the opposing box due to his unpredictable dribbling skills. So what's happened with Boufal since then? Well, during his time at the World Cup, Boufal was playing for Angers just like one of his Moroccan teammates, Ouhani. However, after around 2.5 years with the club, he decided to get that Qatari bag and left to join Al Rayyan in the Middle East in January 2023 for 6 million euros. Definitely earning enough to a point where we can call him a millionaire. But here's the thing, although Boufal went on and got his bag, his stance with the Moroccan national team came at a standstill. In fact, the last time he got called in from the national team was for the 2024 AFCON. Since then, he has not been back. So it's been over a year since he's represented his country. However, with Boufal terminating his contract with Al Rayyan and returning to Europe to play for Union SG in Belgium, where he got 4 assists in 25 games in the 24-25 season, helping them win the Belgian league for the first time in 9 years or something crazy like that. Who knows? Maybe Boufal could do better in the 25-26 season for Union SG. He can make his way back into the Morocco roster. But as of right now, with the 2 tournaments coming soon, he's on the outside looking in to get back into the Moroccan national team squad. Now moving on to the number 18 on Morocco's World Cup 2022 squad, we got Jawad El Yamik, and he had an interesting 2022 World Cup to say the least. But before we talk about that, I do gotta mention again to please remember to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both in Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. And also make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon. So if you want to, feel free to follow my socials, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Back to El Yamik, he played a majority of the games, with him only being completely benched for the opening game against Croatia, but he did not start a single time in the group stages. However, by the time the quarterfinals and semifinals came up, he started and played the entire 90 minutes at the center back position. So fair enough to him for finding a way to break through in his starting position in the middle of a tournament, even though I'm sure half the reason is Romain Saïs getting injured, but whatever. Anyways, at the time, Jawad El Yamik was playing for Real Valladolid and even clocked over 70 appearances for the club. However, in the summer of 2023, he decided to move to Saudi Arabia and join Al Wahda for 1.2 million euros. And now at the time of recording this video, his contract with Al Wahda has expired and he's currently a free agent at 33 years old. Now since the 2022 World Cup, he's barely played for Morocco for the longest time, not even playing for them at the 2024 AFCON. He wasn't called up, and his last friendly was against Cape Verde, as I mentioned already, for other players numerous times already. However, there is a plot twist with Jawad El Yamik, because in the March 2025 and June 2025 international windows, he was called up again to represent Morocco, where he played a significant amount of minutes, starting most of the games. So can he make the next AFCON and World Cup for Morocco? If he can find another club, I would say yes, especially because he played a significant role in recent windows for the Moroccan national team. However, if he doesn't find another club, yeah, he's cooked. Now it's time to talk about the number 19 on Morocco at the 2022 World Cup. We've got the one and only Youssef En-Nesyri, the striker. Now En-Nesyri at the World Cup was an absolute boss. Not only was he so influential at the top for Morocco, with him always causing a danger and being a threat, but he would start every single game for Morocco at the World Cup, not even getting benched at the start once. And this consistency he would get at the top would also result in goals being scored for his country too. His first one at the World Cup was against Canada, which helped Morocco get a 2-1 win to help the country top their difficult group. And then that second one was that iconic header against Portugal where he jumped like Michael Jordan and got his head on the end of the ball over the Portuguese goalkeeper and scored to help Morocco pull off the 1-0 upset over the Portuguese national team. And En-Nesyri has always been a reliable goal scorer. I mean, he did have 73 goals in 196 games for Sevilla. That's a pretty good goal scoring output if you ask me, especially for not one of the best teams in Spain. Now speaking of Sevilla, that was En-Nesyri's team at the time when he was representing Morocco at the World Cup, but his time with the Seville-based club would end in the summer of 2024 because he ended up joining Fenerbahce for 19.5 million euros, a big money move for one of the best players Morocco has still in my opinion. And regarding Fenerbahce, this has been money well spent for them because in one season alone for the Turkish Giants, he's bagged an astronomical amount of 30 goals and 7 assists in 52 games. Bro's inevitable at goal scoring even in Turkey. If he continues to have similar form for the next 25-26 season, even with Jean Laurent coming in and trying to take a spot, he's definitely on that plane at AFCON and at the next World Cup for Morocco. I'm sure of that. Maybe he might not be a starter anymore, even though I doubt that, but he's still going to be in the squad in my opinion, for sure. Moving on to number 20 now for Morocco at the World Cup, we got got Achraf Dari. Bro's got the same name as Hakimi. Dang. Anyways, Dari did not play a single minute for Morocco up until the quarterfinals. Bro could not get off the bench. But in the quarterfinals against Portugal, he came on as a substitute and held down the fort for that 1-0 win. Then in the semifinals, he would play the entire 90 minutes against France. And then in the third place match playoff against Croatia, he would end up scoring Morocco's lone goal in their 2-1 loss as a center back. That's actually mad impressive. During that time period though, Dari was playing for Stade Brestois in France, but only after a couple of seasons, he got transferred to Charleroi in the winter of 2024 on a loan deal. And then in the summer, he was sold by Stade Brestois to Al Ahly over in Egypt, where he still is today. And regarding his time with the Moroccan national team, his last appearance for them, to my knowledge, on the pitch was at the World Cup in 2022. He's not been seen on the pitch for Morocco since then. So not gonna lie, if he hasn't played since 2022, I doubt he's gonna be back for Morocco at these upcoming tournaments. Now let's move on to number 21 on this list, where we got Walid Chadira. Now at the World Cup, Chadira respectfully did more harm than good for Morocco, funnily enough. He didn't play much of the tournament, but he did get the last 38 minutes against Spain in the round of 16, and when he got on the pitch against Portugal in the quarterfinals, he got 2 yellow cards in injury time alone and got sent off, leaving Morocco with just 10 men on the pitch for a little bit. That was honestly Chadira's only contribution at the tournament. Now since then, he's been part of Napoli's loan army, getting loaned to different Italian teams and Espanyol randomly, and for Napoli, he only has 2 senior team appearances for the champions at this current moment. And regarding Morocco, he last played for them in late 2022 and only had 14 minutes with them against Brazil in 2023, and since then he has not been called up. So the chances of Walid Chadira becoming meaningful for Morocco again, I doubt it. Unless he becomes a key player for Napoli, I really would not expect him to be called back anytime soon, or ever again. Now let's move on to number 22 for Morocco, where we got Ahmed Reda Dagnawuti, the 3rd string goalkeeper for the national team at the World Cup. And as you can imagine, he did not play a single minute, and he low-key spent his entire goalkeeping career in Morocco, even having a period where he didn't even have a club. And if you were wondering, no, he does not get called up for Morocco anymore, and I doubt he ever will again, to be honest. But now we can finally move on to somebody that's still relevant in terms of their football career in Morocco. We got the number 23 at the World Cup, Bilal Al-Khanous, who was playing for Genk at the time, and he was actually the youngest player for Morocco in the squad, and he was the only player that had 0 caps for the national team heading into the tournament, as he just made his decision on representing Morocco instead of Belgium right before the tournament. Now the craziest part about Al-Khanous's inclusion at the time is that he wasn't even playing senior team football with Genk yet. He was playing in the youth leagues for the club, but he was rated so highly in the youth pool that Morocco wanted to make sure Belgium never got the chance with him, so they made sure they secured his allegiances at the World Cup. And even though Al-Khanous did not participate in any meaningful match of the tournament, he did make his Morocco and World Cup debut in the 3rd place playoff match, where he would clock in 56 minutes, meaning he started the match, which is good for the then 18-year-old at the time. Now unlike many other players who play minimal roles in the tournament, Al-Khanous has exploded in football and has progressed in an exponential rate if you ask me. I mean, he's literally valued at 28 million euros right now, making him one of the most highly valued Moroccans out there at the moment. And also, him eventually balling out for Genk senior team got him a big move to Leicester City for the 24-25 season for 22.5 million euros, meaning he was playing in the Premier League at a young age, where he would get 3 goals and 6 assists in 37 games, which isn't bad for a kid like him if we're keeping it real, especially for a team as bad as Leicester City last season. I mean, they literally got relegated, so there's a reason why a ton of top teams are looking at Al-Khanous. He showed glimpses of his talent last season in the Premier League, and of course, as you can imagine, he's of course in the plans for Morocco, and I'm very confident that he'll be in the upcoming AFCON and 2026 World Cup for his country, and even in future tournaments beyond that too. Unless he falls off a cliff, he seems to be one of the most important and crucial players for Morocco for years to come. But now I think it's time we move on to the number 24 on Morocco's World Cup squad, where he got Badr Benoun. Now Benoun is one of those players that has never played in Europe, so his impact with the squad for Morocco was always going to be minimal at the World Cup and in the future. And this opinion of mine is factually correct. I mean, he literally played a total of 52 minutes at the World Cup, and he does not seem to be in the plans for Morocco in the future either. So yeah, that's it about him. Moving on to number 25 of Morocco squad, let's talk about Yahia Adiyat Allah. And he's also another player who's barely played in Europe. Like, he played for a Greek and Russian club, but that's about it. Never in any mainstream European league. And although he played a part in every single game for Morocco at the World Cup except against Canada, he has not gone on the pitch for his country since 2024. So does he have a spot in the future of the Moroccan national team? I probably doubt it, but it's still more recent than the other players on this list, so you never know. And now let's talk about the number 26 for Morocco in this 2022 World Cup squad. We got Yahya Jabrain, the midfielder. Now not only did this guy only play a grand total of 13 minutes at the World Cup, making him one of the least played footballers at the World Cup for Morocco, but he's also 34 years old and has never played in Europe. So his Moroccan national team career in the future is basically non-existent. And that's where every player is now for Morocco's 2022 World Cup squad. I know some of y'all might be surprised at how little half the squad plays for Morocco now, but that's because there's been a huge glow up in Morocco's national team pool. Nowadays, they've got the likes of Brahim Diaz from Real Madrid, Ben Seguir from Monaco, Amin Adli from Bayer Leverkusen, Adam Osnu, who recently joined Everton from Bayern Munich, Chamsdin Thalbi, who just joined Sunderland from Club Rouge, etc. Morocco are leveling up in terms of quality players, and that unfortunately means that some of their players from the historic 2022 run are going to be left behind. But it's crazy to think that this current Moroccan national team might actually be stronger than the one back in 2022. That's just wild to think about. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. I really appreciate it. And please be sure to follow my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and join the Discord community. All the links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn about my entire 25-26 predictions regarding the Premier League, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.